Coming up in this episode, how come it's got all these bullet holes in it? Maybe it's the perfect place to kill a gringo. I was only 1 kilometre from Residencia in Alco, supposedly one of the several places where Adolf Hitler escaped Nazi Germany in World War II. All the trees are dead. Initially, they had problems reproducing because strawberries have both male and female plants, and he brought only female plants.
This place is full of ash, volcanic ash.
So I'm in the town of Entre Lagos, which means between lakes in Spanish. And it's actually on the shore of Lago Puyahui, which means little fish in the Mapuche language. After spending just one night in the Hotel Valenciana, I hope to ride up over the Andes and into Argentina. All loaded up and ready to hit the road, and it's a nice sunny day too. After filling up with gas in town, I started heading back east along Chilean Highway 215, and it wasn't long before I saw something interesting. Vaqueros and volcanoes. Vaqueros are like cowboys. A vaca is a cow. And look at the mountains around here. That is an extinct volcano called Puntiagudo, and it's so perpendicular at the point there, it wasn't climbed successfully until 1937, and one of the men coming down died. And people continue to die climbing that mountain. It's not very high, but it's a very difficult and dangerous climb. Highway 215 ran alongside the lake. I passed a lookout, and it looked so nice, I turned around and went back. What a lovely looking lake that is. Puyahui means lake of little puye fish in the Mapuche language. And the puye fish, it mainly lives in fresh water, but it also can live in the ocean, and it's found in places like Australia, New Caledonia, New Zealand. Very strange that it's found in all these different places. And what's that there? That looks like mud flats or something. This is the Rio Golgol, which feeds into the lake. Next we came to some cascades that are called Salto Los Novios, which is like Lover's Leap in English. Looks very clean, this water coming off snow or whatever. And look how thick the vegetation is here. No wonder the Mapuche could avoid the Spanish. So many places to hide, plenty of water, and look how tall this stand of bamboo is. Amazing. Quaint little church there. But I can't linger here long. I've got to keep going because I've got to go up over the Andes and get checked over the border into Argentina, and who knows how long that might take. Now, you see on the left, there's a volcano. More about that later. But on the right, there's a mountain called Frutilla. And right next to it is Pampa Frutilla, or the plain of the frutilla. That's very interesting, because frutilla is the Spanish word for strawberry, and strawberries have a very special connection with Chile. Genetic analysis suggests that the strawberry evolved in East Asia, spread across the Bering Strait, entered North America, and finally made it into South America. It may have been spread by humans. Another theory is it was spread by migratory birds, because the native South American strawberry, Fragaria chiloensis, also grows in North America and even grows in Hawaii. Interestingly, the area I've just ridden through is a place where the wild strawberry thrives in the two types of Tremau volcanic ash, dry ash and moist ash. It's known the Mapuche and probably their ancestors consumed the Chilean strawberry. Sometimes they dried them to conserve them, and sometimes they used them to make an alcoholic beverage. And they had two different words for the two different types, one for the cultivated one and one for the one that grows in the wild. Despite the Incas having conquered part of the Mapuche Empire for many decades, the Chilean strawberry never reached the central Andes until the year 1557, when it was first described in Cusco, some years after the Spanish conquest. In the period that followed, during the wars with the Mapuche that lasted over 100 years, one chronicle relates how the Mapuche planted strawberries in strategic areas where wayward Spanish soldiers would dismount and start filling their helmets with strawberries, only to come under attack and be killed by the Mapuche in an ambush. Then, in the early 1700s, this man arrived, Amédée François Fraisier, sent by Louis XIV to spy on the Spanish coastal fortifications under the guise of a merchant trader. But he didn't only bring back maps and reports of the Spanish military capabilities. His book contained an illustration of the Chilean strawberry. Realising their value, because they were larger than the European variety, he smuggled 5 live plants back to France, arriving in 1714. Initially, they had problems reproducing because strawberries have both male and female plants, and he brought only female plants. But by luck, they were cross-pollinated with the variety from North America, and thus the modern hybrid Fragaria ananassa was born, which is the most popular variety of strawberry which is enjoyed worldwide today. Soon I was at the Chilean border control. A policeman motioned me to park in the middle of the road. The paperwork was pretty straightforward. When I came out, there were people looking at my bike and taking photos of it. Between the 2 border control posts, there was more than 40 kilometres of no man's land, with the actual border unmanned and in the middle. So I thought, what better spot to bury another geocache, a 50-cent coin. Here are the coordinates should you want to dig it up. Now, I wasn't only entering a no man's land between the 2 borders, but a wasteland. Look at all the dead trees and that tan-coloured ash there in the distance. And then I came to this. The Puente El Gringo means the bridge of the gringo. How come it's got all these bullet holes in it? Maybe it's the perfect place to kill a gringo, because you're in no man's land between the 2 borders. Oh no!
This place is full of ash, volcanic ash. It's like a beach, but it's not like sand. It's like, it's crumbly.
All the trees are dead. So this is the actual frontier, but there's nothing here but a few signs, a few monuments. What's this giant rock mounted on a pedestal? This is actually the highest point of the ride, but it's less than 1,300 metres high. You can see here after that peak we go down to a kind of an altiplano, but it's only about 800 metres, nothing like the Central Andes. And there are lakes here, but it's nothing like the altiplano around the Central Andes and Lake Titicaca, which is well over 3,500 metres. That's because the further south you go from the Central Andes, the lower the altitude. This place is just surreal. That apparently is a volcanic plug, you know, the central part of an extinct volcano. In Spanish they call them chimeneas, which is like chimney. Oh man, look at that sign. You can hardly read it. I should have paid more attention to this sign, as you'll see in a minute. You probably noticed that, again, my helmet cam wasn't working, so I decided to mount my handy cam, my big video camera, and give that a go. But it was so heavy it kept dipping forward, as you see here. And guess what happened next? I had to hit the brakes pretty hard. But, thank God, no collision. Next up was the Argentine checkpoint. Inside, the paperwork was a breeze, until the clerk tried to enter the model. He asked me twice, what was it? A Ronco or a Demolition? I showed him the Peruvian title papers. The make is the Ronco, the model is the Demolition 250. Neither were in his computer list. At my suggestion, he entered it as a Shine Ray, which is the generic make of the engine, and Shine Ray was on the list. Not far from here was a lake, completely smothered in ash. Shortly after that, I joined Ruta 40, or Highway 40, and headed south. Pretty soon I was on the prettiest part of Ruta 40, Lake Nahuel Huapi, and it was just beautiful. However, I didn't know it at the time till I saw it on a map. I was only 1 kilometre from Residencia en Alco, supposedly one of several places in South America where Adolf Hitler lived after escaping Nazi Germany in World War II. I don't believe it, but there's been plenty of books and films made in the Spanish language trying to prove that that's the case. But there is a kind of a connection with the Nazis that I'll talk about in the next episode. Filling up at YPF, as the gas stations are called in Argentina, the first thing I noticed about Villa Angostura was hardly anybody here wears a motorcycle helmet, unlike in Chile. In some parts, the road ran alongside the lake, and I just had to stop. It was so beautiful. The name Nahuel Huapi means Puma Island in the Mapuche language. And there's all these legends about a man who transformed himself into a puma, and there's actually one of the islands here is called Puma Island. Around here, the water is crystal clear with a blue tinge. Beautiful. I tried my hand at shooting some local bird life. Not very successful with video, but okay with the still shots. I wonder if they eat these red berries. Skirting around the edge of the lake, a stark mountain loomed large, called Cerro Monjes, or Mountain of the Monks. Soon after that, the city of San Carlos de Bariloche swung into view. Bariloche had lots of traffic. I had the addresses of a few hostels, but the first two I tried looked all locked up and nobody answered the door. As I was riding along the waterfront, another biker pulled up and recommended me to a place a few blocks away at Kilometer 5. That's how I found this place, the Bungalows Reina Mariana, self-contained apartments. As it was the low season and I was the only guest, the charge was a very reasonable $20 a night. That's all for now, amigos, but coming up in the next episode we have...
Fue seguido durante 6 o 7 meses de ceniza constantemente.
On that island, plans were made to build a nuclear-powered aircraft, and they also tried to produce electricity that could be bottled in a milk bottle.
Son impermeables.
Impermeable, una campera.
Can you believe it? They even banned Donna Summer and her song Could It Be Magic?